I spoke with Bulgaria's Prime Minister Andrei Gyurov. He is an important voice in the context of the border peace because Bulgaria was one of the few European countries to join in on this effort. I began by asking in our conversation, how concerning is it, this escalation in the Middle East when it comes to the economy and the politics?
We are pretty worried at the moment, simply because we don't know what the end game of the whole situation is. So Europe should speak in one voice here and try to get to the negotiation table and see what can be done so that this conflict de-escalates and how this will react then to supply chains, energy prices, and similars.
And what can be done? Because President Trump this week appeared to be angry at European allies and NATO, saying the one time we need help, they are not helping. What is the concern, or do you see European action in the Strait of Hormuz?
At the moment, I don't see direct involvement of the European Union in the Strait of Hormuz, but in any case, we are long-standing partners. Europe has always stood beside its allies and partners, and I think the right way forward is to get back to the negotiation table and discuss together with our partners how this war can be ended.
So it's about diplomacy now. Is there a diplomatic role when it comes to Iran, however? Because it seems the language coming out of Israel and certainly the U.S. is that this is a terrorist regime. It will not get done or changed through words. You still believe there's a diplomatic way out?
I think that one thing is certain, and the ballistic program and the nuclear enrichment of Iran has to be stopped. And there are different ways how to do this, and sometimes different diplomatic styles work well.
And on that note, diplomatic styles, at the start of the year, President Trump presented this border peace, and Bulgaria was one of the very few European countries that joined. The truth is, 2 months later, there's another war going on. It's not really brought peace. Was it a good idea to join this border peace?
Well, first of all, this treaty is not ratified by the Bulgarian parliament. It's being signed under the condition that it will be later ratified, and it's not been introduced yet in parliament. So we have not joined this board of peace. What we actually wanted to show is that Bulgaria supports the extensive plan for peace in Gaza. So what concerns Gaza and the board for peace, Bulgaria is supporting this area, but I don't think that the other treaty will be ever ratified.
So the Bulgarian parliament is probably not going to ratify this. In hindsight, do you look at it and go, well, it was a bad idea. Maybe Bulgaria should have thought about it twice, or at least look at the detail, the fine print?
Well, I think it would be an exaggeration to say that this is a Bulgarian position. It's not really a question of international politics. It's not even a question of local politics. It's actually a personal question of one oligarch, which is sanctioned by the Global Magnitsky Act. And the whole signing of this treaty has actually to do with him being removed from this list of sanctions. I don't think it's going to work. What is surprising, unfortunately, is the influence that this oligarch has over some pretty important parties in Bulgarian parliament.
So it seems to me that you are saying, yes, it was a political maneuver and perhaps a big mistake. Just as a final question, however, when it comes to the U.S. beyond the border peace, how do you go about a president like President Trump, who is now asking for help but did not brief Europeans that a war was imminent in Iran? Is there a way that you can talk to a president like this? How do you go about what is, some would say, erratic diplomacy? Others would argue is unusual.
What is important in this kind of volatile situation is to preserve partnerships which have worked on both sides of the Atlantic for many years now. At the same time, of course, it is important that we talk, that we keep our eyes on the goal and be flexible in the means to achieve the goals.
Even when you have a president at times that has said the Europeans are weak, they're not helping. Now he says perhaps they face a bad future within NATO. Do you read between the words? Is that something that you have to do with President Trump, the language and then the action?
I see this as a stress test for the European Union, and we clearly recognize that the European Union should speak in one voice and it should get stronger and stand on its own feet.
And that message so far has been that this is not Europe's war. Prime Minister, thank you very much for joining us.